It's Friday. That can only mean one thing. Here we are again at Jesuit Lunch Hour, as always, powered by beajesuit.org. I am Father Michael Rossman, joined yet again by a great Jesuit in formation, Mr. Melvin Rayappa. Welcome to Jesuit Lunch Hour, Melvin.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for having me, and hello to everyone watching.
Fantastic. Melvin, just as a way of getting started, I like to ask guys to share a bit about their background. So what is your story?
Sure. I'm born and raised Queens, New York. My parents are immigrants from India. Growing up, I went to Catholic schools, so elementary school taught by the Sisters of St. Joseph, went to a Passionist parish. For high school, I went to Regis High School in New York, our Jesuit high school there. And then I went to Carnegie Mellon University, where I studied electrical and computer engineering. I also got a master's degree focused in robotics. And then after that, I worked for 2 years at a startup company, tech startup in New York, before entering religious life.
And so your primary connection to the Jesuits was through Regis, your high school?
Yeah, that's right. I met the Jesuits at Regis High School, but also my parents being from India, my dad went to a Jesuit college, and they run many, many schools there, and some of the best schools there as well.
Yeah, speaking of, the Jesuits' presence in India, I'm thinking of that with the feast yesterday of St. Francis Xavier. So certainly one of my heroes, maybe one of yours as well.
Yes, very much so. My vow name, I took Francis Xavier as my vow name. And so I hope to aspire to be like him one day. A great missionary.
Fantastic. And right now you are a missionary of sorts. Why don't you say a bit about what you're doing currently?
Sure. So I'm a regent. So I'm in that period of Jesuit formation where we do apostolic work full time. And so for my regency, I'm teaching in the engineering department here at Loyola University Maryland.
Okay. And how has that been, considering you're probably online right now? Yes?
That's right. So here at Loyola, this past semester, we've been 100% online. And so, yeah, a missionary of sorts in the digital world. Certainly new territory for a lot of us. And so, I think it's been good. I'm very grateful for the students. I get their work and all of that. And I think they've got great determination and great grit to be able to go to school during this time. So I'm very thankful for them.
Yeah. And how do they see you as, an instructor of engineering with a collar around your neck?
Yeah. I hope I challenge them a lot to kind of to move past this false narrative that religion and science are incompatible, or there's no way that reason and faith can coexist. So I hope I challenge them to do that. And certainly in the classroom, I talk a lot about moving beyond science and moving towards understanding and wisdom. And so not that they're just here to learn a lot of technical knowledge, but later they'll be expected to use that knowledge responsibly and for the common good.
Wow. And perhaps it's hard to see because you're all online, but how do you think they respond to that?
I think some better than others. I think, some people, frankly, I have this basically 5 minutes in the beginning of class, I might talk something about that's not engineering related at all. Some people, I think, just want to kind of get to the material and tell me what's going to be on the exam and the homework. I think other people, it's a nice relief from the Zoom world and all the other coursework they're being bombarded with.
Yeah, great. And how did your former, colleagues and classmates and so forth from your engineering background, how did they respond to your becoming a Jesuit?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I worked at a startup company before I entered. And so when I joined that company, it was very small, just 10 people. By the time I left the company, it had grown a lot bigger. It was about 70 people. And it was very, I think, difficult for a lot of people to understand why I would want to first leave engineering and leave the company we were in, and also just leave a lucrative career behind. I mean, engineering is a great profession to be in. So I think it was challenging for a lot of people to understand, why do this? And it seemed, I think, very radical to them.
Yeah, but it has worked out quite well for you, right?
Yeah, so far it's so good for me, and I will say also, I think they were happy to see that I'm happy, and I still keep in touch with a lot of them today, and so that was important for them and important for me, and so that was good.
Great. Melvin, I'd love to get your thoughts on just kind of this, time and space that we occupy, particularly because of your background in engineering and technology and so forth. What are some of the things that are keeping you up at night, or what are some of the things that you are thinking about in terms of technology and our current moment and your being a Jesuit?
Yeah, and so one thing I'm very happy to do is now is to be able to more leverage my technology skills teaching here at the university. And my big hope in teaching here at the university is that, like the goal of many of our Jesuit universities, is to form people, to form students. And so what does keep me up at night is that there are a lot of people in the tech industry who didn't get a Jesuit education, didn't get really an education that really was, I think, formative for them morally, ethically. And these are the people who are making decisions, huge decisions that are impacting our daily lives, lives of billions of people around the globe. And so there's, I think, with technology, a lot of unintended consequences that we're now very much seeing at play and at the forefront.
Yes, it is amazing just kind of how, someone has to design these algorithms and so forth that have such an impact, but perhaps they aren't always designed with Catholic social teaching in mind, or even if people have good intentions, as you said, there can be unintended consequences. Yeah, what are some of the trends that you are noticing, or what are some of the ways that you try to use technology for the good and not for the bad yourself?
Yeah, I mean, as St. Ignatius says in his First Principle Foundation, what's the purpose of anything that exists? And all created things exist to help us praise, reverence, and serve God. And so in that sense, technology is a double-edged sword. There's so many good things that technology has brought us. It's bringing us this conversation right now as we speak. On my phone, I have apps that let me look at the daily readings, pray the office of hours. And so there's so many ways that technology is, I think, and hopefully making me and other people holier people and moving us close to God. I think the great danger today about technology is just how addictive it is. And so Ignatius also talks about just being able to be detached from things and being able to have the freedom to leave them behind. And, I wonder, even with myself, how free am I to just turn off my phone for a little bit? Or how free am I to not use the computer or not get sucked down a rabbit hole when watching YouTube? So I think that's the danger. It's a lot more addictive than we think it is.
For sure. Do you have any practices that help you kind of cut the cord at least a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, certainly one thing we practice here in our Jesuit community is, when we go to social or dinner, we don't bring our phones, or we turn them off, or we turn them off on Wi-Fi, so that we don't even get notifications about things. So that's one helpful practice, just that we can stay in the moment. Another thing, as a lot of people are doing now, is being more conscious and monitoring their screen time, and just making sure, with those kind of metrics, it can be very revealing to see, oh my goodness, I'm spending that much time doing something. And so hopefully that will help us refocus our priorities and, focus on what's really important.
Yeah, I oftentimes think about how, some of the best and the brightest people like yourself, their job is to get us to, spend as much time as we can on these devices. What is it like going from perhaps that side of things to this other side of things, where you're trying to kind of assist people and, using these for the greater glory of God, and not kind of getting sucked into the vortex?
Yeah, I mean, definitely before I entered Jesuit, I was a tech optimist. I always wanted to, especially being at startup companies, you want to push the boundaries, be cutting edge. And really the question you ask is, can I do this? And the question that's not being asked is, should I do this? Or is this a good thing? And so now I'm being on the other side, it's more questioning some of those technologies, but also, having worked as an engineer, it's also understanding, again, as you said, like these algorithms at work, and realizing like, yeah, even if it's not my intention to kind of get addicted, there's something unconscious going on when I'm using technology. And so just being aware of that effect and kind of pushing back as much as I can.
Yeah, sounds great. And I think we're all in this together. I know that, yeah, I'm certainly trying to still figure this out. And, at least on a personal level, I do, see so many good things. And, I try to use these tools to reach people that I wouldn't otherwise be able to reach, and hopefully offer something of substance. But it's then also very easy for me to, get sucked into the same, devices or the same apps and so forth that I might want to use for some good, and can lose my attention and presence in the moment and so forth at the same time. So I don't know if that fits your own experience too.
Yeah, and so I guess the big thing, I guess, that's going on these days, just the awareness of it. I think before we were not even aware of what was going on. So that's a great first step.
Right. So Melvin, what are some things that you like to do in your free time? What when you aren't teaching engineering and so forth?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm a big sports fan. So watching sports, playing sports when we could do that. That's something I enjoy very much.
Yeah. How you are a Mets fan, right? You're from Queens, right?
That's right. Born and raised in Queens, so I didn't really have a choice. Not the franchise I think a lot of people would sign up to root for, but yeah, being born and raised there, it's kind of in my blood.
Yeah, I mean, I think for many people who, are like a team like the Yankees, you either love them or you hate them.
That's
And
right.
so I was never a Yankees fan. So it's like, all right, Mets. It's not like I'm a fan, but well, it's like, good for you.
That's a good humble option to be a Mets fan. If you're looking for any Advent time penances, rooting for the Mets is one of the things you can do.
That's great. That's great. Now, Melvin, I know at Loyola Maryland, you hopefully will have more in-person contact with students, coming up and the next couple of years and so forth. And certainly you would have, a background in accompanying, young people and so forth. What are some of the things, some pieces of advice that you might give to a young person in discernment, or even just beyond that? What are some of the hopes that you have for your work, particularly your ministry, with students moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I guess with accompanying young people here, I mean, I guess one thing I want them to realize is that God does have a plan for us. God does have ideas for us and paths that are going to be more fulfilling than others. So it's not just kind of like a crapshoot of like I can do whatever or spin a wheel, and it's like kind of my own decision type thing. And that that God does have a plan for you. And I think kind of already accompanying some young people, I think the tough part is that there can be a paralysis around decision making. And I know, especially these times compared to others, there's a lot of uncertainty in the world. But that's what discernment is about, is that you have to take at some point a leap of faith. I don't think it's ever going to be clear before you make the decision of how that decision is going to turn out. And so we just don't have all the data, and we can't read God's mind either. We can do our best to pray and to understand how God is working, but there will always be a leap of faith. And so I would just say to young people, just be courageous, be trustful. If you've done discernment right, then trust the process and be willing to take that jump.
Yeah. And I was struck by your use of the word data. Perhaps I'm not surprised with your technological background. It's actually a word that I use a lot when I walk with people thinking about the Jesuits or other states of life, that we have to gather the data that we can to be able to make an informed decision. But at the same time, as you said, we're never going to have the whole picture, that there will be, a leap that we're going to have to make. what was the thing or the things that got you to kind of take that leap and leave your, leave the startup and so forth?
Yeah, and so actually leaving that company again, as I said, I got to really know the coworkers so well. I love the work that I was doing as well, so intellectually stimulating for me, and so it was so tough for me to leave. But the big thing was going on these come and see weekends where you get to just get a little glimpse of Jesuit life. And so one big one was just visiting the novitiate and seeing, wow, like these guys are normal people. I remember like literally it was in late like October. And so we were just in a room. It must have been like 9 o'clock. All the formal events were over and we're just hanging out, grabbing a beer, watching the World Series that was on. And I was like, I thought like, oh my, I could really see myself being here with these people. So I hope if people are discerning religious life, that they get a chance to meet people in that religious life and be comfortable in that life as well.
Yeah, I think that's such good advice. Just paying attention to where we feel at home, where we can really just kind of see ourselves thrive, and not just for our own enjoyment, but when we're, thriving, that's a space by which we can, give glory to God and serve God's people too. So, Melvin, this has been an absolute pleasure. It's good to, use technology to connect in this way. So thanks so much for joining us.
Great. Thanks so much, Michael.
All right. This has been Jesuit Lunch Hour powered by beajesuit.org. We'll be back next week with another great Jesuit. Thanks so much, everyone. God bless.